Ray Berry is my name, or Ray Berry, the English version of it. We're known as both. The Berry side of my family were originally actually let them in Connemara, and they used to say wherever they came before that they came by sea, and they used to jokingly say probably in a barrel because we were fond of you. How are you, kid? Oh, Francis, get Francis. But the devil. I was brought up in a very old-fashioned house. They used to call it one time, it's like if you're brought up in a Sinn Féin Republican house, they used to say, tell the priest your sins and keep your business to yourself. So then no one would know anything because he had the seal of confession. But I was brought up in Middle Street around the corner. It's great that we're down the docks. You caught me here now. That the lads will think now I'm doing a bit of work. But anyway, I was brought up in Middle Street, where the Dáil Bear is now. I don't know where a lot of people, the Dáil Bear, well, that was our family home. And oh, you DJ, I'm on television. Oh, we're brought up there in the. Great to see you doing a bit. And very old traditional Galway family. We're here near Fort Hill, where you did a thing with Tony McDonough. Tony, sure, he told you the history of Fort Hill, which the definition of a Galwegian. A lot now might like this. If people say they're Galwegian, you say, have your people buried in Fort Hill? Any of your family or part of your family? And if they are, that's the definition of a Galwegian. They're born really inside the walls. There was 8 of us, 7 boys and 1 girl. I was the youngest of the family, we'd say the baby. And they used to say about me, don't upset the baby. No, they were a lovely and a tough family, but by jail, whatever they said, don't upset the baby. Their life wouldn't be worth living. My mother and father were born under British rule. You know, people talk about the changes here and whatever. My father was born in 1910, my mother in 1916, right? Jesus Christ, we're getting an audience today. You wouldn't see them then if there's a bit of rain. We're down at the docks, and I would have spent a lot of time as a teenager down around the docks. I was kind of wild as well, so I used to snatch salmon, and I used to like a few drinks even at a young age that time. And we used to snatch salmon. And I'm 66 now, gone 66, so I wouldn't consider myself an old man. I think I'm 17 a lot of the time. But even at that time, just talking about the salmon, there was no fish farms, there was no done stores. You'd only get salmon in season. And the price you get for a salmon that time, snatching salmon, it'd be like a working man's wages for nearly a week, or for 4 or 5 days anyway. So you'd have great old crack out of it, because there was nowhere else to get it. You can go to Dunn's now, or go into a place and buy this farm salmon, all this caper. It wasn't in it, you know. So it was that type of upbringing. And what I always loved about Galway, I had a lot of the world travel at 21. It was the hippie days that time, so I had a lot of the world travel. I'd take off, and a lot of the stuff I do mightn't have been too kosher or whatever, but I did a lot of travel. But I'd always loved to come back. And then eventually I went and I studied in America. I spent formative years there, studied as a chiropractor and came back. But I always knew I'd come back because it's the water. Now you ask about Galway. Galway to me is the water. You have the sea, and I wouldn't be able to live away from the water for any length of time. I was in beautiful countries, Switzerland and Germany, all these places. I travelled in India and up to Tibet and Ladakh, but I have to be near the water, and primarily the sea, because it's in my people's blood. My great-grandfather was a boat builder. As I said to you, they were in Lettermullen, and they're on the monument there. They have a monument for boat builders, just 2 of them on that. And then there was a tradition back there of bone setting in my family. And it's ironic that bone setting, then I went and became a chiropractor and worked at it for years. So, but I always came back, and the sea. And when I think of Galway, it's the water, and the canals, and the water, and the river, and predominantly the bay and the sea. And we're around there, you see some of the boats there, these traditional boats that, there's a small one there, Macho, that'll be a poke on, and there's a gloat jog over there, and there, I'm involved with Bordering and Cladda, and isn't it ironic how your life kind of comes back around again. But you're asking me about the docks beforehand, and we're talking a bit about republicanism, and I showed you the steps down here, and you'll see it on the way down. There's the steps, and there's a cross in it, and very few people know what the cross is there. There were 2 lads that were shot by the Black and Tans, and they were thrown into the docks here, in that corner, and that's where the cross is there. Very few people know that. And God rest Michael Welch, then another famous Republican, was shot around the corner in Long Walk and thrown in it. So that's where the history, even though at that time, this is a bit maybe controversial because my family would have been the Ashes and my grandmother's people were very Republican, and Galway was a garrison town. So these lads that were shot by the Black and Tans, they were country people that came in. Some of them were shot by Michael Welch out Headford side, but Republican families in the town were very, very few because Galway was doing well. They had all these barracks and the armies, and they were doing well. It was very much a garrison town. So the ethnic people of that time, very, very few. You could count the families on one hand.
So you come from a kind of a Republican?
Well, yeah, yes, I would do, because my grandmother was one of the Ashes, and my granduncle, he was the Galway Thomas Ashe. He was leader of the National League and the Land League in Galway, and he was the first Nationalist Commissioner elected. He died at 33. They say as a result of a beating. He was in prison many, many times. But so that would have been a kind of tradition from kind of both sides of my thing. Yeah.
Since you were a young fella, how has Galway changed?
Oh Jesus! Well, I'll put it this way to you. I went into a lovely pub up there, Busker Brown's in Cross Street, a few years ago. I was having I won't call it a skinny latte, whatever they call it anyway. We're having a chat, and one of the young girls in there, beautiful little girl, said to me, "My God," she said, "you're from the Latin Quarter. You know, you're from the Latin Quarter." And she said, "What was it like when you were growing up?" Well, I said, when I was growing up, I says, even the Alsatians went round in pairs, and we spoke feckall Latin. It was a tough area, beautiful area, but it's a great thing you mentioned, because I'll tell you something. I'll tell you what it was like growing up where I was. It was absolute magic. Now you have people in Galway talking about being brought in Bournemore and Merview and that. Stop. The characters that we had, you can imagine Cross Street, High Street, K Street, down the docks at that time, because it was the end of the tenements. It was all tenements. That was the city, you see, and it was all crowded in. And then when they built Merview and Shantle and that, a lot of the people there, they went up there, but it was a very crowded area, tenements. And the characters were just, it was unreal. It was like, if someone said one time, did you read this book or that book? You know, someone said an academic, American academic, was on the Late Late Show, and he said it's an awful shame. He was talking about Ulysses, and he said an awful shame that most of the Dublin people didn't read it. And Jordan, the director, Neil Jordan, says they don't have to, they live it. So the characters, I used to go into houses now, and there'd be medieval fireplace in there. The range would be inside a medieval fireplaces. It was just, and the characters, as I said, and there was much Irish nearly spoke as English, because a lot of all the Connemara people come in to do their shopping and get the stuff for the animals and that, and they'd have so there was as much cross street in that as Saturday, Sunday, you'd hear as much Irish spoken in some of the pubs as English. It was a very unusual. It was magic, really. It was magic growing up, because there was all these buildings then, the tenements then, and if you're into pigeons or whatever, you'd be climbing after pigeons, and it was an adventure, really.
Yeah, it sounds very adventurous and innocent.
Well, I wouldn't use the word innocent about me ever, but anyway, but it's up to, yes. The difference between childlike and childish, so we'll say, yeah. Well, you couldn't, it was a tough area too now. You wouldn't have to be, as I said, even the Alsatians went round in pairs. And the big shots from Salt Hill and that now, they wouldn't be allowed down around our area, particularly after 5 o'clock. But it was magic. That said, the people were beautiful. Doors were open, the keys were in the door. Could go in, you could run for sugar next door, milk, whatever.
It was
huge community, yeah, very much, yeah. Well, yeah, the corporal punishment and all. It was like, don't forget, yeah, who was it? Was it Joe Horrigan? One of your other guys said that we had the Irish Taliban, which in a lot of ways, So and see, the church influenced everything. No, it's good and bad. No, it's whatever. It's no good flogging a dead horse, as far as I'm concerned. That's the end, whatever. And we had the Patrician brothers, so I had an interest in history and different things. And funny, because later on, as I said to you, I was wild. and I couldn't study like other people, but maybe I didn't because I just kind of a memory. So I could get away with stuff, memorizing stuff and whatever. I was bored with, I know, he's talking about all the girls I loved. No, Habre walk. You want to step in? No, I didn't because my attention span, it bored me. I wanted to be out. But then I started playing a bit of rugby, and I wasn't bad at it. No, I didn't like training. I was a lazy rugby player, but I was good at certain sports, and that's what I wanted to do. That's what school meant that to me. And but I suppose I got through it, and then I was meant to get going and meant to get travelling. And as I said, the hippie days were still on the go, so I took off then, and I had what they'd call would you call them peccadillos. I was fond of certain things. I was fond of girlings and travel and drink and anything but a day's work, you know. I lived in England a couple of years, not long in England, and I quite liked it because I found they mind their own business, you know. But of course, it was tough times at the same time. It was the time of the Troubles, and of course, I'd have certain leanings of that. So I was invited in for chats a few times, and often you remember coming back on the boat, and I used to have to jump into the boat and throw the bag in and jump in because they'd hold me to the last minute at times, you know. But aside from that, that was England, and I had some years then in America, but I always knew I'd come back. It's funny, we're down at the docks, and my father worked as a carter at the docks for years, and then he worked. There's a tar plant. See that little building up there? That was a tar plant for the county council. The tar used to come in from the railway track, and he used to fill the trucks there. But he worked as a carter for the docks here. A lot of my passions now are kind of waning a little bit. I'll put it that way to you. I travelled the world over a lot of passions before and romances and that, but now very much I started getting back involved with the little boats, the sailing boats with the lads and that, and I'm very interested in history, and I study a lot of history. I'd be an avid reader. I'm coming back to it now. I was always an avid reader. I could kind of page read. That's how I got through school. I could page read, you know. I go around on the bicycle, keep myself a bit fit, and the sea swimming, I do it now. I had the COVID there a month or two ago, so I haven't been, but I'll be getting back into the sea swimming. The savage loves his native shore, so I have to come back to this and come back to Galway and the crack, you know what I mean? It's a good question. I would say, I've more of a slow burning happiness now. One of the biggest things for me, brought now, is that to have the look of the draw, to be born with kind of strong genetic genes as regards health. You know what I'm saying to you? Geez, it can't be bought. To be given that, and in my days as a chiropractor, I remember talking to a lad from Connemara, and we were talking in Irish, you see, and he was on about his back and problems, and I was telling him, well, I said, you have the same shape of back, you know, a lot of it is genetics. Well, he says, I wouldn't know a lot about genetics, he said, but he said, what's handed down can't be handed back, and that's the best definition. I told it to a professor of genetics, and he said, you've got to use the lecture. It's a great definition. What's handed down can't be handed back. So to be born with strong, because as you get older, your health is the biggest thing. Health and a bit of mental health is to me, you talk about the happiness, that's what it's about. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do. I'll tell you what I regret, and I'll quote the great Republican Dan Breen. My regrets are, I regret the ones that got away.
If you could give a younger Ray, a smaller Ray, one bit of advice, looking back, what would that be?
Oh, go for it. Which I did. Matthew, thanks for that, but I'm going to say to you what I say to everyone. I've enough of you now. And please God, the funeral when it goes out, after the whole lot, let it be short. And I just want to say to them, I've enough of you now.